Happy Monday, hockey fans. Welcome into a fresh edition, a fresh week of Daily Face-Off Live. Tyler Remchuk, Carter Hutton with you. We are live on the DFO YouTube looking for your inbox questions as always. And as always, we are a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Huts, how you doing on a Monday? What'd you get up to this weekend?
Kids, life, hockey. We actually had a team hockey party yesterday for our little guys, bowling. A lot of fun. Had a couple beers with the dads, hung out, nothing too crazy. So just trying to digest it all. It's busy around here, buddy. I got a 6 and 8 year old, so it never stops, but you'll be there one day, my man.
Were you bowling?
I didn't bowl. I can roll though. I can roll. I'm not the best, but I can roll. I can keep up.
I mean, it's always a good reminder of me that, like, even though I'm only in like my late 20s, my body's not what it used to be, because I'll go bowling and I will feel it for like a week. It'll be like my arm, my legs, everything is just like in so much pain. So I think you made a good call just skipping right to the beers and just observing.
That's it. Yeah. I'm like a 2-game max. We'll take the kids once in a while, but if it creeps into 3 games, I'm going to be toast for a week with a wrist, shoulder, right side body injury, IR.
Yeah. Right side body. We're going to be joined by Jesse Montano for our big segment today. The Colorado Avalanche just continue to remind us that they are the best team in the NHL. We're going to talk a bit about those Avs in a little, but let's kick things off as we do every week here on the show with our Man of the Weekend award. And Huts, I'm going to go first because Macklin Celebrini just did it again. A 3-point performance for the Sharks leader. And listen, I say leader in the sense of it is this guy producing offense, and he's producing a lot of it. He's been on the ice for 51 goals this year. So not only are his 43 points second in the NHL, second only to Nathan MacKinnon, but of all the goals that he's been on the ice for this year, he's factored into 84% of them. The only player in the NHL who is right with him, Bedard's at 83. But look at this, McDavid, percentage of goals involved in when he's on the ice, 79, Rantanen 79, MacKinnon 75. Like when the Sharks are producing with Celebrini on the ice, he has his hand in on it. And we are now, 30%, a little bit north of 30% of our way through this season. He's still 6th in the odds board for MVP. And I know that a big part of this debate is like, you got to be a playoff team if you want to, have an MVP. And that's always been a thing. I think Macklin Celebrini has a hell of a case to be the league's most valuable player right now. Nathan MacKinnon might be the only one with a better case.
Yeah, I do agree with you. You know what's going to hurt him is the fact he plays for the San Jose Sharks, too. We've seen that so many times. I always think back to the Drew Doughty, Norris Trophy voting and the fact that he plays in LA. But he is a guy that has done so well and he's played so well. And this is the fact, too, Ty. He's a well-rounded player, right? He isn't just this offensively minded, gifted player. He's a complete guy. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I think a safe pick for you taking him Man of the Weekend.
Yeah, again, 3 more points. The percentage numbers I just showed you are unreal. And if you had to somehow make a case for him over Nathan MacKinnon, I think a big part of it would be the gap between Celebrini and the Sharks' second highest scorer is 15 points. Connor Bedard's the only other player with a gap that big. Again, 15 points separate Celebrini and Will Smith. 15 points separate Bedard and his teammate Tyler Bertuzzi. I went through every other team's stat page. The gap between MacKinnon and second place is 10 points. McDavid is 15 points clear of anyone not named Leon Draisaitl, but he has Leon Draisaitl. Bedard and Celebrini do not have a Leon Draisaitl. The gap between Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner is only 9 points. Like, the fact that these two young guys continue to do things like this without very much help, and those teams have obviously gotten better this year. It's not a true one-man show, but it's pretty damn close to it. And this is not a San Jose team that is sitting down with the Nashville Predators and the Vancouver Canucks. They wake up this morning tied for a playoff spot in the West.
Yeah, and it's impressive to watch, too. And a team that we didn't really have on the radar in that sense of being in the playoffs or being at a point where, they can be right knocking on the door. This was a team that I think it still was going to take a little bit more time. Yeah. And as for that Pacific Division, I'm going to transition into my guy, Ty. I got Ville Husso. I like to go off the board a little bit. I'm going to take the guy that hasn't had a lot of luck in the NHL as of late, right? He comes in. Lukas Dostal's out 2 to 3 weeks, lower body injury. Peter Mrazek, the veteran, is out 2 to 3 weeks with an upper body injury. You have 2 guys out of the lineup. Ville Husso comes in. He's had a good run. He's 4-2 right now. But in this weekend, he takes home a big win against the Blackhawks after they were shut out to the LA Kings. They win 7-1, and then he goes to a shootout and he finds a way to beat the Washington Capitals. So this was a big weekend for a team that is holding on to that first place in the Pacific Division. And I credit Ville Husso because I know he wasn't overly taxed in these 2 games this weekend, but finding a way to win in that shootout and finding a way to play great against the Hawks is an important factor for a team that, if they go on a skid here without their 2 top goalies, maybe they're sitting outside of the playoffs, right? Because everything is so tight right now. So I just wanted to give him a little credit for a guy that's only played 13 games in the NHL last season. He's been bumped down. He had his contract with the Wings. It's been a lot of times in the minors. I like stories like this, a guy fighting back to be in that position to try to help his team win.
Well, and a little bit later on, we're going to talk about a couple of teams who aren't surviving their injury woes. And when Dostal went down for the Anaheim Ducks, it was kind of like, okay, we know that Pacific Division is going to be hyper competitive all year. If they sputter for 2 weeks, that could be the difference between being in first place and potentially being in a wild card. And you start to look now, like the Oilers have won 2 in a row. The LA Kings only have 4 wins in their last 10, but they've picked up points in 7 of 10. So they're finding a way to stay competitive. Vegas has only lost twice in regulation in their last 10 games. So you're looking at a team in Anaheim where, like, if they didn't have Husso giving him these important minutes, and he's won 3 of his 4 starts here to kick off the month of December, he's made 4 starts so far in December, which to your point is impressive considering he hasn't played a ton over the last few years at the NHL level. Like, the fact that they're keeping their head above water despite the injuries is very, very important and tells us something about this Ducks team.
Yeah, it is. I think rallying around that is important, right? I know they're playing with structure and they're playing well. We're going to get into it a little bit more about some tales from their weekend. But that being said, you look at a team like, you head over to the East, you think about the Toronto Maple Leafs and the lack of goaltending they've been getting this year. And again, now they're going to be in this similar situation. You got Anthony Solazar, you got Joseph Woll out. Now it's going to be Hildeby. He played well the other night. They ended up losing in overtime to the Montreal Canadiens, but this is why you need goalie depth. You see it all the time because there's going to be times where guys get thrown into situations like this. And it's fight or flight here. You got to find a way to survive this time of year.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll talk about a couple of slumping teams in a little bit, but the story that continued to dominate the hockey world this weekend was the Quinn Hughes trade rumors. Lots of things popping up. Elliot Friedman had a couple of interesting reports on Hockey Night in Canada over the weekend, but the one that popped up was that the Devils and Canucks have actually had conversations about Quinn Hughes, and Hughes was asked about it the other day after their win, and I found his comments interesting. So let's roll those before we get into it.
Your name has sort of surfaced in trade talks between the Canucks and the New Jersey Devils. Obviously, that's a big deal for Canucks fans. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you have any sort of reaction to those sorts of rumors?
I mean, no. I mean, I'm doing what I can. Like you said, I'm on the ice. It wasn't like if there was a call, me, Jim, and Fitzy hopped on the call. I wasn't a part of that. But obviously, I'm aware that things like that could happen for sure.
Do you hope that a win tonight, like to sort of get off the right track, maybe quiets some of that stuff down? Just trade rumors.
I mean, yeah, it was nice to get the win. I'm not getting the win so that the media can stop talking or whatever you guys are saying. I really don't know. It was just nice to get a win. We obviously desperately needed it, and it was a good team win, and I was glad and happy for some of the young guys that got on the board, and I'll just leave it at that.
Your name is sort of surfaced
if you're a Canucks fan and you're hoping Quinn Hughes doesn't get traded, I think him calling the New Jersey Devils GM by his nickname it probably doesn't make you feel all that good, Huts.
Yeah, I know. I was actually going to say that too. I like it. I got a chance to know Fitzy as well too. He was my assistant coach when I was at college. It was during a lockout year, so he came and helped out. And man, this guy was hard. He was a nail gun. So it was good that it's out there now. But Quinn Hughes is a guy you just can't go buy at the store, right? You can't go draft him. This is like a generational defenseman, what he's been able to create. So if there is going to be a trade, it's going to have to be something perfect with prospects that helps the Vancouver, Canucks get to where they need to go. Because we've talked about this a lot. Teams rush into these trades. You give me 6 players, but if they're not Quinn Hughes caliber, what does this trade matter? And I think at some point when there's smoke, there's fire here. It seems like a disgruntled employee wants out of Vancouver, Ty.
Yeah, I like that line too. Like, you can't just go and 6 dimes doesn't equal $1, right? You can sit there and say, oh, look at how much we got, but if it's nothing of substance, it just doesn't matter. There was a little bit more today from Friedman on his 32 Thoughts podcast, who had a couple of quotes I'll share. One of them, he said, quote, "It's difficult to handicap how long this takes." And he was talking about a potential Hughes deal with either New Jersey or Detroit. And he followed up on the Detroit part and said, quote, "I do believe that if Vancouver and Detroit wanted to make a deal, I believe there is a deal to be made there, and I also believe they have talked. The fact that Vancouver, we're only in December, and they're getting to the point where they're actually legitimately talking about this, I believe way more than a couple weeks ago that I think a trade is possible this year. And again, I think Vancouver's probably due towards a bit of a hard reset here next summer. And I don't wonder if Jim Rutherford's maybe putting up his hand and being like, you know what, I'm going to be the guy to bite the bullet and trade Quinn Hughes. And then it just sets us up for, if we got to fire Patrick Allvin in the summer, bring in someone new, at least they're not burdened with it. I wanted to share this as well, the Karlsson trade from a number of years ago. The first one, I should say, when Ottawa originally traded him to San Jose. And hey, you could look at this, and with everything that happened in San Jose, you could say this is an example of, how you could maybe win that deal, right? It was Josh Norris, who, injuries aside, ended up becoming a pretty good young player for the Senators. Dylan DeMello's turned it on and had a pretty good career, albeit it happened with the Winnipeg Jets. One of those first-round picks turned into Tim Stützle as well. Like, they actually got some pretty good pieces back, but I'll add Quinn Hughes, much younger than Erik Karlsson was. You'll have the ability to extend him, all of that stuff. Like, it'll be very, very hard for Vancouver, whether it ends up being Detroit or New Jersey. And I do feel like we're at the point where I'm saying it's one of those two, like whether it's not a matter of whether it happens. I think it's when it happens now, but it'll be a hard trade to win, Huts.
It will be. But that being said, like if you're the Vancouver Canucks, I think you have to take a realistic look in the mirror at what you have. And is us having Quinn Hughes now and just riding this out with this subpar team that's been kind of pieced together, and we've lost, that drive to really win. We don't even have a starting goalie at this point. Or do we do what happened with San Jose and Ottawa, where you maybe give yourself a better chance of some reconstruction and a brighter future to build into than just having a great defenseman on a mediocre team? And I think that is the honest assessment that the Vancouver Canucks have to make at this point.
All right, we're going to get to the top of the standings here in a couple of minutes and talk with Jesse Montano about the Colorado Avalanche. But before we do that, I want to look at a couple of teams who are kind of continuing to sputter along over the last few weeks here, and especially over the weekend. And one of them, Huts, is the New Jersey Devils. Like we talked about, so the Ducks are finding a way to survive without Lucas Dostal, right? They lose an important player. They're finding a way to scrape together some wins. The Devils are still going to be without Jack Hughes, for another month plus at this point. It might leak closer to the Olympic break. They've lost 5 in a row. They're outside of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. Like, another part of this Quinn Hughes conversation is, like, if you're the Devils, you're obviously getting Quinn Hughes to extend him and keep him for a very, very long time. And listen, they're a point out of the playoffs. I'm not saying they're punting on the season or anything like that. But if things continue to go south for the next month here and Jack Hughes isn't in the lineup, like, you can make the argument that, hey, it doesn't even make sense to go spend a bunch of assets on an in-season trade if you can't overcome the injury to one of the Hughes brothers.
Yeah, you know what? It looks ugly when you see the standings up like that in the division, but when you really break it down, they're right there. Outside of a few teams here, it's going to be a dogfight, right? And that just shows you how tight the parity is. So I don't think it's total panic mode. You got to think that the Devils will come around. I think they're too good of a team not to, in a division like the Metro, where, a 4-0 run gets you right back into it. But it is concerning, you look at their last 5 losses is 1 goal in the last 3 games, which is a little bit concerning. When you talk about a team that is offensively talented, they can create a lot. They buzz in the offensive zone and not known for defending as well. I think they're getting better. But there is a little bit of concern, I think, when you talk about the New Jersey Devils, the lack of Jack Hughes and his leadership. And when he comes back, where is he going to be, right? Because that's the other factor of this. It's easy to look at a surgery or a player being out and be like, well, he's out 6 to 8 weeks. But when do we get Jack Hughes back, the talented player? This isn't a defenseman that just chips the puck off the glass and blocks shots. He plays, like, his style is an art and there's a timing to it. So it is concerning in that sense. But again, I think what they have going in their favor, Ty, for me is the Metro. They're gonna get in, right? I feel they will get in. It's just a matter of getting their game to peak at the right time.
But if you're 8 points out of a playoff spot and the slide continues and Jack Hughes comes back right before the Olympic break, like, I don't know, it might get to a point where, like, there's teams you got to jump at that point too. It becomes a little bit of a math equation. And with the condensed schedule, like, Jack Hughes missing a month and a half here still, or a month still, that's 15 games, 16 games, right? Like, such a chunkier schedule. They got to figure it out here, right? Lost 5 in a row. Out in the West, I mean, I was going to talk about the Seattle Kraken. I don't think we need to talk about the Seattle Kraken. I think they're just showing us what they are. And I know I'm becoming a little bit of a Seattle hater, but I just hate that, like, everyone sits there and is like, oh, but they defend off the rush so well. Oh, look at their metrics. They never give up high danger chances. Yeah, but that's because they're just hemmed in their own zone the whole time. The other team's just doing whatever they want around the perimeter. And like, sure, you can sit there and be like, but they're well coached. And it's like, they are. And like, again, maybe I shouldn't be this disrespectful to the Seattle Kraken. I just feel like this is who they are. They have 11 wins in 26 games on the year. They give up a ton of perimeter chances and eventually pucks go in. Joey Decord's not bailing them out anymore. I think this is a Seattle Kraken team that, you had a good first month. Good on you. Sell. Get rid of shit. Do this the right way. Similar to Vancouver. Just quit accepting mediocrity.
Yeah, again, just no superstar talent, right? You look at their point structure, right? Everyone is based from 11 points to 16, all in their top forwards, top defensemen, and what they've been producing. There's teams where the gap, we just talked about Bedard having 15, 16 more points than the next player on their team. So just what they generate in offense, they lose for. They are a team that plays, they have to play a complete game, and they have to get very, very good goaltending to even stand in a game. So right now where they're at isn't very surprising. It felt like this was coming. And again, for a team that's supposed to be great defensively, when you look at their penalty kill being 32nd in the league, that's going to be a big killer when you can't really produce offensively.
All right, let's get to our big segment for the day. It is brought to you by Uber Eats, enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to all the ingredients you need to make your go-to game day dip before, during, and after. Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Jesse Montano covers the Colorado Avalanche for Guerrilla Sports. Always a pleasure to have you back on the show, Jesse. And there are a lot of areas to talk about with this Colorado Avalanche team because there's so many things going well for the Avs. But I want to start with the big dog, Nate MacKinnon, overtime winner over the weekend. Odds-on favorite to win the Hart Trophy. 6-point lead in the scoring race. You got anything else you want to add on to the Nate MacKinnon conversation here? Oh. Wait, we might not have Jesse's audio. We might need you to just reconnect here, Jess, or unmute.
Well, I could talk about Nate MacKinnon while we wait, though, because that was an unbelievable overtime goal, too. I like the flashback they showed of him in junior with Halifax getting the same goal. So he's unbelievable, and I don't know if we got his audio. We're good to go now?
No, we might need him to reset. Pat, pull him off. We'll talk a little bit more about Nathan MacKinnon, who, yes, Hutz, is running away. He's minus 135 to win the scoring race this year. He's minus 210 to win the Hart Trophy. Like, it's borderline MacKinnon versus the field.
Yeah, it is. And again, rightfully so. His explosion, his first step is wild to watch. And that goal the other night was a great example of his talent plus his raw skill. I fell victim to him many a times before too. So what I do think in this team is going to be interesting, and I want to talk to him about it. You know, where are the cracks in this lineup, right? We got you now, Jess?
There we go.
I think so. Can you guys hear me?
There we go.
Yeah, we're good to go now. Talk Nate
Hey.
MacKinnon.
Hey, sorry about that. Hey, great to see you guys. Always great chatting with you. You know, I was just joking on my pod earlier or last week. I'm running out of adjectives for him. I mean, like it seems like every season he just takes it to another level. And right when you think he can't possibly have another level, right? He does what he did in New York a couple afternoons ago. No, I mean, this is something special we're seeing from Nate this season. He showed up to camp I mean, he's an intense guy to begin with, but he showed up with just a different intensity, a different sense of determination than even I've ever seen in, almost 10 years covering him. I think that loss to Dallas really, really stung him. And he looks like he is just on a mission in a different way than even we've ever seen him. He's just on another level right now.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable to watch, right? I think that whole team and where they're at. And, the breakdown for me is you start the season without your starting goalie, right? Mackenzie Blackwood injured. They kind of slowly work him back in because Scott Wedgwood's unbelievable. Then Scott Wedgwood goes down. Mackenzie's just been back. It started November. And the run that he has been on now, like having these two goalies, you got two guys sharing. They both have a 920 save percentage. A team would kill for a 905 in the NHL. And you guys are getting 920. What's there to say about that? Because it's easy to say the offense is creating, solving all the problems, but this goaltending is really setting the table as well.
No, it's a great call out because there's so much of yes, the Avs have looked dominant in a lot of games this season, but there have also been plenty of games along the way here through whatever it is, 29 games where they've needed strong, performances in net. So what these guys have been able to give them has been huge, but I want to talk about Mackenzie Blackwood a bit here because talking with him getting back, so he had a procedure done right after the playoffs last year that actually kept him off the ice all summer. So when training camp opened and we saw him working, slowly back with skills coach, some of the trainers, like that was the first time he was getting on the ice since they got eliminated in the playoffs. So like it really took him a bit to get his timing right, to feel comfortable. He was even just telling me like, just, locating guys on the ice at game speed, like that takes a bit for you to get back. So having Scott Wedgwood playing the way he was not only big for the Avs and obviously picking up points and winning games, but it allowed Mackenzie Blackwood to rehab back from that procedure over the summer at his pace, at a pace to make sure that he wasn't, overexerting himself or coming back too early. And like Mackenzie has told me, like, yeah, that took a lot of pressure off of him. He was really feeling like, hey, I need to get ready. I need to get back. And Scott Wedgwood doing what he did really kind of helped alleviate a lot of that.
Yeah, it does, right? And we're seeing that firsthand with so many other teams, right? Where they lose one guy and the other guy can't carry the bag, right? That's important. You got to get there's injuries that happen. Now, it's never too early to talk trades, to talk depth. Where does this team go from here, right? Because they're going to be in a very good situation, right? They're building up a nice base. They have the lead in the division. But when trade deadline comes, it's going to be after the Olympic break. Where do they start to add in pieces to really, make this team a cup contender to try to win it this year?
Yep. It's a great question because when you're rolling like this, you sit there and you kind of balance like, well, how much do you want to shake things up? How much do you just want to, stick with this group that's rolling? I really see two areas for this group right now that I say, yeah, you probably want to add there before, the deadline comes and goes. And the big one is your third line center. Jack Drury has performed there totally admirably. No real complaints. But I think, having seen a team that went 4 rounds, won a Stanley Cup just a few years ago, that their third and fourth line did a lot of heavy lifting for them in some of those playoff games. So I think you'd want Jack Drury to slide probably back down to that fourth line, and you'd want an upgrade there at 3C. And then truthfully, I think you want a 7th D. Like you want one more guy that if you have an injury, you feel really comfortable that he can go in there and eat up minutes. They've got Ilya Solovyov in that role right now, and it's pretty clear Jared Bednar doesn't have a ton of trust for him. They haven't played him in over a month. So I think you want a third line center. I think you want a 7th D, and boy, oh boy, is that different than what we were talking about with this team at the deadline the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, I mean, last year was just absolutely bonkers, but along those lines, like, I mean, they don't have a pick until Puckpedia says they don't have a pick till the 4th round this year in the draft. Like, things are going so well. 2 regulation losses on the year. I think I heard you say the other day that they've only lost by multiple goals like once this year. Like, with all this stuff going right, isn't this maybe a year for Chris McFarland just be like, you know what? Let's save some futures. We traded Cal Ritchie. We traded a 1st-round pick last year. Like, this team is good enough. If they're going to win, it's going to be because of the guys we already have. Like, not to say you do nothing, but like, they don't need to make a big splash this year per se.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I really do. I think you're talking tweaking around the fringe. Who can you get you're exactly right. Who isn't going to break the bank? You don't have a ton of assets anyways. And, credit to Chris McFarland. He understandably took a lot of heat last year. Like he made, he had to completely turn over his goaltending room. He traded a franchise cornerstone. And right now, obviously still a long way to go. You got to see how this season ends. But like a lot of those moves are looking really good. Bringing Brock Nelson back, and suddenly he's heating up and on pace for 30 goals again. So, you just, a lot of those moves that he took some big swings on last year look like they're kind of panning out. So no, it's not an unfair question of like, does he just say, hey, I'm gonna cash out. I'm not gonna keep going here. Like things are going pretty well. We'll see. Like I said, I think tweaking around the fringes, and then just real quick, I just want to give again, Chris McFarland, for as few draft picks as the Avs have had, how many assets they've traded away. You've got Sam Malinsky, who's, quietly creeping up into like a second pairing conversation type of guy. And then Gavin Brindley, he's out hurt right now. That's a 20-year-old kid who made the roster out of camp and has had a real impact on this group. So despite not having the traditional ways of, getting fresh blood into the lineup, you got 2 young players that are on the cheap, one of them on their ELC having an impact. And that's huge for a group like this.
Yeah, you mentioned everything McFarland went through last year, like the way the season ended with Ranton and all of that. If any GM deserves to just have a breather of a season, it's probably him as well. You mentioned Malinsky. I want to wrap on one more on the blue line. 40-year-old Brent Burns playing close to 20 minutes a night this year. First off, for you as a media guy, how much fun has it been to cover Brent Burns? And also, what's his impact been like on that blue line?
Yeah, no, he's been fun. This is a locker room that's got some characters in it, and he definitely added to it. He's an interesting guy. He's different than anyone else I've ever covered or been around in one of those rooms. Like, he's great, but he's great in a different way than most guys that you run into in a hockey locker room. But he's had a bigger impact on that back end than I think people would think. Not only quietly 14 points from the back end. He's producing, but he's eating minutes that Cale Makar and Devon Toews have had to eat in years past. Like, the Abs haven't had another guy that you can roll out there 20 plus minutes a night, every night. Like, Josh Manson's a good defender. Sam Girard, I think is, sneakily underrated around the league, but those aren't, minute munchers. Brent Burns is out there killing penalties. He's playing on the power play. Jared Bednar trusts him late in situations. O-zone starts, D-zone starts. He's made Cale Makar's life easier. And, I think we're seeing, how not that Cale Makar had a bad year last year, but he just looks, again, another guy who looks to be, more fresh, a little bit on a different level. That entire D-corps, they just love him. He's had a really big impact, not just with what he's doing, but what he's allowing other guys to do, if that makes sense.
No, totally. The trickle-down effect of that is significant. Jesse, great work as always. Appreciate you popping on. People watching, you can read his work at Gorilla Sports, and we'll chat again soon.
Awesome. Always love chatting with you boys. Take it easy.
Did you bump into Brent Burns when you were in San Jose? Was there any overlap there?
No, just played against him. Never. I know he's an interesting cat. He has like a ranch in Texas and a bunch of animals, and he's a wild guy. I love it.
Yeah. Let's get to our daily face-off inbox question, #AskTFO. Just continuing to clean up some headlines from over the weekend. Spencer Carberry was not overly thrilled with how this Jacob Trouba hit on Ryan Leonard was handled. Hutz, can I ask you? I mean, last time we played this game of clean or dirty, we definitely irritated one fan base in the NHL, but clean or dirty, Trouba on Ryan Leonard?
Honestly, I'm all about protecting players, but you have to protect yourself here, right? Like, on this play, you can see he takes a look. He knows Trouba's coming, but he still decides to go in to make the play. And we call that making a play to take a hit. Trouba doesn't lift his arm. Trouba doesn't even take a stride. He lowers his shoulder and runs into him shoulder on shoulder. Yes, then it goes into his head. This is a clean hit all day by me. And again, Ryan Leonard could have just stopped here and made the play, initiated contact with Zellweger. This is one for me that if you're going to put yourself in a vulnerable situation, you have to understand it's still hockey. And you hate to see someone get hurt, but hockey's a contact sport, Ty.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, I don't want to sit here and just be like, oh yeah, Ryan Leonard did it to himself. But like, if he slams on the brakes here, if he stops on the puck, you're right, he gets bumped by Zellweger. Like, he put himself in a position, and you see at the beginning of the clip, he did the little shoulder check right here. I like that Pat paused it. He's looking. He sees there's someone over there. He took a hit to make a play. Like, again, whatever outcome comes of it is obviously unfortunate. You never want to see guys get hurt. I love that Washington stood up for him. All that stuff's great, but like, this isn't like one of those predatory hits that we need to take out of the sport. That's Jacob Trouba being Jacob Trouba to some extent and being physical. That's what makes him effective.
Yeah, I think I get Carberry, right? You're standing up for your player, but how many times have that role been reversed? The Washington Capitals, Tom Wilson has put somebody on, into the boards where it's a clean hit and it changes the impact of the game. So you kind of got to live and die by it. Again, I think for a younger player in that sense, you also have to know who's on the ice. And again, I wasn't impacted by that at times. I was more aware when like Nathan McKinnon stepped on the ice, or Connor McDavid, or someone that was going to put the puck in the back of the net whenever they touched it. But that being said, I was also aware of, like, I always think back to playing against like Ronaldo in the Flyers, or guys that run around and threw a lot of body checks, just to be verbalizing with my defenseman, like, hey, this guy is coming. You got to know who's on the ice. And that's part of it. A young guy, he probably doesn't make that play again when Jacob Trouba's on the ice.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Let's get to our daily bets for Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Hey, you were riding with Ryan Leonard in a hockey game over the weekend, Pat, and it didn't come to fruition on Friday, but you're still leading the pack here.
Yeah, not bad so far. I don't know. I think Friday must have got to me on this one. Ryan Leonard 2+ points was a little bit wild at +600, but I was riding the hot hand. I was okay with it at the time. We'll have to be a little more conservative today, but I feel bad for Huts because I think I liked that bet. It's just when the first goal score is always a dangerous one because that could happen right at the start of the game, and then you got nothing to root for.
I know. Well, now you tell me. You should have told me that before I took the bet. I was feeling it, though. You know what I mean? They just got hammered by Utah. I got both those wrong, too. Can you give me double X's on mine, please?
Yeah, I need the. Oh no, I only need the 1x. I got my Dallas -1.5 against San Jose. Utah Vancouver ended 5-1, so I missed it by 2 goals. I mean, Utah's goaltending is maybe figuring it out a little bit here after being ice cold for most of November. But let's get to our picks for tonight. I'm going to kick things off. I got a little 2-legger here, a money line. I like Minnesota to beat Seattle. I like Kirill Kaprizov to get a point. The Seattle Kraken are free-falling. The Minnesota Wild, bounce back spot for them. They were red hot. They lose to Vancouver. I like them to get back to their winning ways. +120 on the payout. Pat, what do you got?
Well, I did have that exact bet, so I had to counter, but I'm okay with it because I really like this one. A little more juice, Minnesota -1.5. For some reason, I'm really liking the puck line this year, but I mean, Seattle's falling. Minnesota, they lost to Calgary and Vancouver their last 2 games, but I'm the kind of guy who, the roulette wheel's not going to hit red 3 times in a row, so I feel like they got a better chance against Seattle tonight, and that the goalies in Seattle have been slipping a little bit as well. So at +200, Minnesota -1.5 is my bet. What about you, Hutz?
Well, I had the Minnesota Wild as well, so I have that money line, but I paired that with the Leafs and the Lightning over 6 goals. I just think Tampa Bay on this little skid that they're on, it's a little one, so I still think they're going to find them back in that. They're going to have to face Hildeby, and then you think about the Leafs only getting 1 goal at home against the Habs. They're at home again. I think they're going to generate some offense. So look for over 6 there, and the Minnesota Wild, parlay that for +219, and tomorrow's going to be a good day, boys.
Oh, we are all on the Minnesota train tonight against Seattle. If you're looking at our records and you're in the YouTube chat, maybe just go bet on the Kraken tonight.
Yeah, I think that's the play.
Yeah. Let's wrap up with a little bit of garbage time. Last week was all doom and gloom for the Olympics, and not that we are totally out of the woods on that by any means, but there is still some Olympic excitement, and this commercial with John Hamm and Team USA is good stuff. Let's give it a watch.
All right, Team USA, listen up. Whoa, I just got chills. You guys feel that? It's an honor to speak to you all before you head off to the Olympics. You're going to Milan to bring home the biggest prize of all.
Canadian tears.
Yeah. Exactly. Wait, what? What did Canada do?
Stuff.
But they're usually so polite.
Not anymore.
Really? No. Are we sure we can't just hug it out? No. Go get them, boys.
Glad to see the Americans' priorities are just beating Canada and not winning gold. That's I think we call that rent-free, Huts, and we can say that as a couple of good Canadians.
There we go. That's bulletin board stuff, that commercial. But it's great. You know what, honestly, I love now that players are more engaged in doing stuff like that and understanding the humor in and what's involved. And John Hamm, big St. Louis Blues fan. I got to meet him actually when I was in St. Louis. So he's a diehard Blues fan. So it'll be, I can't wait for the Olympics. Man, they better get a rink going. At worst case, I'm sure we can lay a pond somewhere in Canada and we can play out there.
Yeah, make something work. Jack Eichel, good actor as well. That was good little bit of timing. I think he was the star out of all of the NHLers who got in the mix there, but always some fun chirps ahead of what should be a great Olympics in a couple of months. That's a wrap on today's edition of the show. Tomorrow, Jeff Merrick. Wednesday, Steve Peters. Thursday, Dave Pagnotta. All the regulars lined up for the rest of the week here on Daily Faceoff Live. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, whether you're on podcast, YouTube. Appreciate you tuning in today, and we'll chat with you again tomorrow live at noon Eastern. Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.